All right, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Now, just let me explain. First of all, it's free. Second of all, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a whole bunch more. And third, now this is really important, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Hear me when I say no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello. This is a special sort of segment of the Artenders with Mac and Dan. I am Dan, he is Mac.
Hey.
And so for this, we want to do something a little bit different. Right here, we have a very, very special guest with us. Her name is Molly Searcy, and if you don't know Molly Searcy, you certainly will now, because she is Akame in Akame Ga Kill. We met Molly in college, actually, at Southern Methodist University. Mac and I, we were doing our BFAs, our undergrad education, and Molly was there for the graduate acting program, and that is how we got to know Molly, and actually worked together there as well. And it's become really exciting to get to know Molly and also see her work and her growth. She has also become a brand new member of the acting company at Dallas Theater Center, which is really exciting. You can find out about their future shows at dallastheatercenter.org, and she also still works with Funimation and Sentai Filmworks with doing other anime shows. So Molly, thank you. Hello. Thank you so much for joining us.
What an introduction.
Thank you for having me. Yes, I hope I can live up to that. That was some hype. Thank you.
I try to put you up on a pedestal, so the only thing you can do now, Molly, is to fall down.
Fall. Thanks for setting me up for success. I appreciate it. It's nice to be here.
Oh, absolutely. We're so happy that you could be here, and we're definitely grateful and gracious for the opportunity that you're giving us.
And there were some people that are so excited about this because as everyone knows at this point, I'm a teacher right now, and there were some people that I had to tell no when they gave me posters for you to sign. That's not even a joke. Literally, we're like, "Are you kidding me? Can you please get her to sign?" And I'm like, "I can't. I'm not gonna do that. I literally can't do that."
I really mind. They can send it my way, and I'll do it if you want.
They would.
But it may be a thing that you don't want to go through the hassle of it, and then I can't blame you there.
It's not as much that. It's more like a personal distance, a personal life distance, where I'm like. Let's keep school at school. Let's keep you over there. You know?
Yeah,
Molly. So Mac and I, we're gonna review, or rather, we're looking at Akame Ga Kill, and so it was actually suggested to Mac by some of his students, without us knowing actually on the front end that you were a part of it. So that was a very funny and cool discovery.
Hilarious.
To see, just googling the show and like, oh, this show is starring a friend of ours that we went to college with.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So, Molly, we wanted to ask you, first and foremost, how did you get to be a part of the show? And did you know the sort of cult following that it had from the get-go with its manga and with its already pre-released anime a year prior in Japan? Did you, was it exciting? Did you know what you were, like, signing up for, I guess, in terms of this project?
That's a great question. Initially, no, I didn't know what I was signing up for. I had been working, I'm from Houston. I had been working as an actor in Houston for several years, and I had been working with Sentai for probably about 2 years as a voice actor. And one of the directors, Kyle Jones, he asked me to come in and read for Akame, and she's a pretty deadpan, straightforward kind of character. And this sort of niche of character is what has now become my sort of wheelhouse as a voice actor. But at the time, I was still sort of finding my footing. And and so we recorded the first episode, and then I went home, and I was laying on my couch. It was like a Sunday night or something, and Kyle sent me a message on Twitter or Facebook Messenger or something, and he was like, "Hey, just want to let you know that Akame is actually our show that's going to be on the Cartoon Network Toonami block, and so basically just get ready." And I was like, huh? And I like was, I was excited and everything, but then I was also like crying because then I was like, oh God, am I, can I do this and everything? And I was like, thank you and all this. And he was like, yeah, it's just chill out, just calm down and it'll be fun and it'll be fine. And we recorded it, and it was so fun and so cathartic and so awesome. And it's really been the vehicle that has allowed me to. It opened a lot of doors, I would say, as a voice actor. It's allowed me to audition for other shows, and it's what helped me go to my first con. And that time of my life also is like a very special, precious time. I was personally healing from a lot of grief situation, and it's just like this very special sort of thing that I didn't know was going to be a special thing, but ended up being like it's just very near and dear. And I love the show and everybody that's been a part of the show. And it's only one season, there are there's Akame Ga Kill 0, a manga that is like the prequel kind of thing, and everything that I've been told for the last 6 years has been, no, we're not doing a season 2, no, we're not doing it. And the fans would like it, we would like it, but they just, but at the same time, it's like, with all these reboots of TV shows, like favorite TV shows and stuff, it's like, sometimes you just gotta leave it alone, I didn't know it was gonna be so special, but I'm very grateful that it has been.
Absolutely, yeah. And so I'm curious now. Because there was already a recorded show, it already looked a certain way, and there was also someone that had done it in Japanese. I'm curious, did you watch the whole show beforehand, and what type of impact does it have on you as a voice actor hearing someone else's voice acting? And like, is that then a matter of, I mean, obviously you can't do an impression,
Right.
So what does the work look like at that point in both doing honor to the original performance and story, and then also making it something accessible for you?
That's an awesome question. I don't think I've ever been asked that question. That's an awesome question.
Oh, I'm glad. Well, hey, look, this is a different type of show.
We're trying, man. We're trying.
Yeah, this is much more processed show than it is.
So I didn't, because of the way technology was at the time, like the only way that you could watch it was on Crunchyroll, and I don't think that they had every episode available at the time. So I was not able to watch the entire show before recording it. And very rarely sometimes you get to do that kind of thing, but I know with this one I wasn't able to. The very unique set of circumstances that surrounds English dub voice acting is that you're matching flaps. Like someone else has already interpreted the role, and it's written in Japanese, and they record it in Japanese, and the mouths are flapping the way that the syllables would come out in Japanese. So there are very talented translators and script writers who try to make syllables and sentences match those flaps. And your job is to interpret that and make that work and everything, but do it like in an instant, because you don't get the script ahead of time or anything like that. You walk into the booth and it's there in front of you, and it's a split screen. On one side of the screen you've got the script, and on the other side you have the animation, and you're reading and recording at the same time. And Sentai and Funimation record in two different ways. At Funimation you get 3 beeps. That's like your red light, yellow light, green light. It's sort of like ready, go. At Sentai it's more like wild. You just record when you see the moment come up, right? A lot of times when you're recording, you can hear the J or the Japanese over your headset in the background. So you can kind of get a sense of what the tone is that the person who recorded it in Japanese was living in. So you can kind of get a sense of that. But if you try to match that exactly or mimic that, it may not...
You're doing a disservice to yourself as the actor and your own capabilities and what you can bring to the character.
Yeah, exactly, Danny. Yes. And then also you have a different world of sounds in your mouth that tonally it may not sound, it goes back to our work with our dear Anne Schilling,
Yeah,
I
do
mean,
it. Yeah.
It's like you just have, it may be a different vibe or world, but you can sort of get the feeling of what worked in the Japanese. Also, though, you have a different cast around you of English dub actors who are bringing their own symphony of sounds to it, and your job is to live in the same world that they live in. But I think the most important thing that I've learned as an actor, no matter what the medium, voice acting or acting on stage, and I certainly felt this when when we were doing Dear Old Cherry Orchard, is that
right. Classic.
when you have characters and shows and things that people know really well, and especially are iconic, or they have a fan following already, people are going to have expectations that you could do the best job in the world, you could do the most... What is the MPAA rating on this podcast?
Just go.
Okay.
Do it.
So you could do the most, shit job on the show, and people are going to be critical of it. This experience in particular, of recording Akame, I got my first real taste of like super like supportive, positive, and then also just like super hate of like, but that's when you made it. It's like, oh, people hate me, great,
People care enough to complain. That's so exciting.
Yes,
right.
And just think that you're garbage trash, and then there are people that are like, oh, it's so this, and all of the directors and everybody who, thank God they exist, like all the people that are there to help you get through, your professors, your directors, the people in charge, so to speak, they all have done this, and they understand, like, if you go in with the expectation that you're going to please everyone and do it right, then it's not going to be right. It's going to be fake and stiff and all those things. And so I had that concern. I did have that concern when I learned that there was this whole world that was devoted to Akame, and tons of manga and tons of fan following. I was like, oh God, what if they hate it or whatever? And Kyle, the director, he was just like, you can't think that way. You gotta put it aside. Just like, Michael Connolly used to say, it's like you can't, if you're tripping over that stuff, you're going to do a terrible job. And the real truth is like, your interpretation of it is the right thing, is the honest thing, because everybody's going to have a different interpretation of a character. So it's a weird balancing act. You try to get the vibe of the character, you see what worked, what people resonated with. You definitely don't want to insult fans or something like that, but you were an actor who was hired to interpret a text, so it's that balancing thing.
Yes. What an interesting and complex answer. Oh my gosh, that was so fun. So, oh, thank you. So the progression of Akame, right? She is someone that is pretty, like you said, not monotone, but it is very straightforward for a good portion of the show, and then really opens up, and it's super interesting to see.
Particularly in the latter half of it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, whenever Tatsumi talks about like her always keeping composure and everything, and then also, later on whenever people start going left and right. Really interesting to see that there was not a limit necessarily. It was more like a pressure cooker. And that was really awesome to see. So was it nice? I guess my question starts with this. Were you in the booth with the other voice actors? Did you have them in your ears at all? Or did you know anything about them after you'd recorded a couple episodes that made you feel a little more like, oh, this is what the world feels like, and this is the permission that I can grant myself once I do get to those tricky scenes with the iconic Akame moment like you promised?
That's a great question. And it depends on the show. The art of voice acting is it's so unique, and I have such respect and admiration for people who are just sensational at it. And there are some really insanely gifted people who just, they know what the work needs. So much of how this work happens is based on scheduling, because you do record by yourself. And oh, here comes my baby.
Who is this baby that you
my
speak of?
It's my kitty. It's Lucy.
Oh, hello, Lucy.
Hello.
For those who can't see, which is nobody because it's just us three over the Zoom, there is a beautiful cat, Lucy, that Molly is showing us, who is just absolutely adorable.
Oh, thank you. She is let's see. She's like 9 months old. She's a good kitty. She's my pandemic baby.
Nice.
Yeah, so sometimes you're the first person to record at all on a show, which means that when you're recording, you won't hear anybody else, any other dub actors who have recorded, because they haven't done it yet. So you may just hear Japanese, or you may hear nothing. A lot of times they'll give you the Japanese, so you can hear the cues and things. Usually it's sort of piecemeal. Sometimes one of your scene partners will have already recorded some of their stuff, and so you'll get to hear that. But it just depends on people's schedules and if people are coming in from out of town. And certainly now with the pandemic, it's changed everything because everybody's recording from home, and you just never know. With Akame, I know that there were some characters that I did get to listen to when I was recording. I know that Corey Hartzog, who plays Tatsumi, he recorded some of his stuff, and so I got to listen to that when I was recording, but then other people I didn't. I was always delighted when I would hear somebody that I wasn't expecting, or something like David Wald, who is just incredible and very dear and everything. When you do have those other voices, it definitely, like you said, Mac, I mean, it sort of fills in all of the colors of your world, and you really get a sense of the dynamics between characters. But when it's not there, you just take your cues off of the animation, and you try to do as much research as you can, reading up on the show, and the sense of each character. Something that is useful is getting to know the different archetypes that exist in anime, and sort of those each kind of character, what energy they bring, and then if you can kind of fit the characters in your show into those archetypes, you can kind of anticipate what somebody's vocal style may be, and then you can sort of prep your own. But right. I will say also what you spoke about the emotional journey of Akame is extreme, and it was sometimes a surprise, and a good surprise. And people have often will remark that it's like the Game of Thrones of anime. And even as an artist in the show, there were times that I was taken aback and surprised, and like I had like the moments, or like the no moments, and yeah.
Do you ever find it really tricky that, so from my understanding is that you are figuring out and understanding the character sort of as the show is being made. So do you ever find it tricky in moments in particular where you're like, oh, I wish that I knew about this, about my character when I first recorded, that could have informed a lot. Like, how do you find the ability to work within that container and embrace that container, but also sort of try to figure out as much as you can in the moment?
Or also, I'm sure it's super weird to, like, if you have already made decisions about your character, and then a couple episodes in, they do something with it, and you're like, oh, that goes against everything that I had already decided. You know what I mean?
Totally. That is a real thing and does happen sometimes. I will say the directors, they know the show super, super well, and they know exactly what they're looking for. I mean, most of the time. It's very rare that I meet a director that's like, I don't really know. And sometimes it happens, and they might be like, just see what comes up. But most of the time, they know exactly what they're looking for, and they can like give you suggestions and tune it up and tune it down, and they know what's going to come, and they know what's going to happen, because they've seen all the eps, and they they know the storyline really well and everything, and they can guide you making choices and things like that so that you don't end up getting into a corner and then like not being able to back out
In
of
terms
it.
of the interpretation, yeah.
Yeah, and then sometimes though things come up. I mean, lots of times there will be pauses in recording, or let's say like you record season 1 of something and then season 2 comes along and that's like 4 months down the line, and you've recorded like 8 other animes since then and you don't really remember what you sound like. The engineers will have a clip of you that they can play back for you, and you can be like, what did I sound like in this one? What was I doing with this one? And then they can play it back for you when you're in the booth, and then you can kind of get that refresher of like, oh yes, I remember what I was doing, because more than likely your stuff will not have been released yet, and so you can't reach it online or anything. It kind of depends on what it is, but they'll have those refreshers. Then for shows that are sort of like epic, you know, or like the studio is like, we're investing a lot in this, then usually you'll have a little bit more time. You'll be recording over the course of several weeks, and so you can get really familiar with the material through doing research online and things like that, and so you kind of know where things are going. But most of the time, the interpretation stuff, since the medium is so different from theater or film where you get a script ahead of time and you know exactly what you're dealing with, the directors are really great at guiding you.
What sort of things have you learned, not just from this show, but other voiceover jobs in general, that have you been able to transition some of the stuff that you've learned to maybe film work or into theater work? Has there been anything in particular that you've really taken away from the things that you have worked on?
Because you mainly started with voice acting, right? Or was it theater?
As an actor, I started in theater. I started as a dancer, and then I always like did theater, but just like in school and stuff. It wasn't like, you know, whatever.
Who hasn't?
Right. and weren't you a ballet dancer specifically?
Yeah.
That's so
And
sick.
then-
Okay, yeah.
No.
That's really,
really.
freaking cool.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, it feels like 100 years ago, but I guess like my heart and soul is sort of still lives in that world.
Yeah.
But yeah, but then I got more into theater, and then in college that was my major, was theater and dance, and then yeah, I was working as a theater actor when I got into voice acting, and I had different people in my life say to me throughout the years, like, oh, you have a really interesting voice. I think you should do voiceover work. And I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know how to get into it or anything like that. And I kind of fell into it. I was recommended by someone, and then I did some auditions, and then they needed an unknown for a lead role, which doesn't often happen. It just was the way the cookie crumbled.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just a progression from there. What I have learned, because it kind of goes both ways, like what I've learned as a theater actor that I can take into voice acting, and then what I learned as a voice actor that I can take into theater. As a voice actor, I think, you know, being as prepared as possible in a very short turnaround. So just being ready to go is always going to be your friend, and being ready to take notes on the fly and just go with it, essentially. So that sort of flexibility. And then it kind of helps you exercise that, not improv, because you have still a script that you're going with, but you don't have like weeks of preparation and like, you know, what's this like in my body? You just have to have that sort of flexibility.
And whatever impulses come from the moment,
Yeah.
you're like, okay, good. Let me take this. Let me implement this right here, right now.
Yes. And also that kind of vulnerability, because
Sure.
so when the microphone's right here, you know, I mean, you don't have to push and you don't have to do any of those things. And the studio in Houston, especially, I've been working with Sentai for 8 years now, and I was still very green when I started with them. And
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. They're great people, and it's a very like familial kind of thing now, and you see each other through births and deaths and weddings and pandemics and all these sorts of things, and they become like family to you, and when you haven't seen them in a while, it's so awesome. But then you have to also record things sometimes that might be a little bit embarrassing. Like I've had to, on more than one occasion, many occasions, for different shows, not for Akame, but for different shows, make very sensual sounds, if you will, and reactions to things, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the service of the work.
Yes.
Oh my god.
And the directors, and the sound engineers that are in the room with me are people that are like my family, and it feels like this is my, best friend, this is my dad, this is my brother, that sort of feeling, and you have to do it, and you have to be a professional. And so being able to do that, learning that, and getting comfortable with that, and just being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Especially, because you cannot hide. They're all listening to you, and they can all see you, and they're all listening to you. So you just have to go with it. And then in theater, what I bring to voice acting, especially since grad school, is the embodiment. I used to be very afraid before grad school of getting too physical in the booth. I thought, for some reason, that was wrong or something. I thought, oh, it should just be this.
Yeah.
But
because the impression is that, like, okay, everything below my neck is unnecessary because nobody is going to get that.
Right. And like, oh, if you have to do that extra effort, like, are you really doing it? And it's like, it's actually the actual opposite. It's the full body experience. And our amazing, not to make this an SMU episode, but like Anne Schilling is like, she's
the queen.
Yeah,
who is our voice teacher.
Yeah, the absolute queen.
Person, and basically her message is acting and voice acting. Every form of acting is a full body experience, and I have taken that to voice acting, especially since grad school, and I also have a sort of renewed focus and an efficiency that I didn't have before.
That's so funny because as I was watching, I kept thinking to myself, like, because how I remember you and how I've always known you, obviously, is one of like the most physically in touch actors, right? And
really?
That was, yeah, for sure.
Yes.
That's a very like specifically Molly Searcy thing.
I concur.
I remember.
Wow.
And having worked with you, I remember that always being like the kick, like that always being the next gear for you. Is you like do the work, and then the next the push it into high gear is always the like whenever all of a sudden you click into the physical space. And so that's funny that you're saying that, because as I was listening, there were some times where I was like, oh, there's Molly. And there were other times where I was like, is that Molly? That doesn't sound like Molly to me.
Yeah.
That kind of sounds like Molly. I'm not sure if that's Molly. And then there's like after a while, there's like one line where I'm like, oh, there she is. That's Molly. and I think it's exactly what you're talking about. I think it's exactly what you're talking about. The physical element. And the physically being in touch, which is wild, which is wild to think about.
Because it's funny because you don't think you would hear it.
Sure.
But then once you get physically in touch, like with your work and really using your corpus and what you can do, and then you listen back to yourself and you're like, oh, so everything is changed, and you feel it in your breath work, and you feel it and just naturally when you're doing the work, and it feels like a whole plethora of options is opened up that voice acting forgive me if I'm like speaking out of turn or putting words in your mouth, but it's so much more than just your voice, but it's still so much, using your body and translating everything that you do physically have into work, even though the only thing that's really being translated is the audio form.
I'm sorry, I can't get over it. Is corpus your word, or did you steal that word?
I mean, corpus is a word.
Yeah, I know, but it was like really well used, and so I feel like it was something that you took.
It's a fun word that needs to be utilized more often.
It was
corpus callosum.
Super eloquent. And also on that note, you've been hitting us hard with the lingo.
Have
with
I?
The voice actor lingo.
Oh
right?
no!
She's so good. She's over here like, they're sending you the J. I'm sorry, Japanese.
Oh, I don't mean to be a twat about it.
Molly,
I'm just like,
Molly, you're you're a snob and we're insulted. Thank
Okay,
you
well,
very
I've done
much.
my job then. No, first of all, I want to say thank you. That is like, Mac, that's a huge compliment. I take it as a huge compliment of being a physical actor, because that was my, what's the word
Hurdle.
for a thing that is a hurdle, but it's like your thing. It's your thing that you have to overcome. It's like your
Sure.
thing.
Arch nemesis.
It's your thing in school where they're
Right.
always like, you're doing that thing or you're not doing that
yeah.
thing.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we have those things.
Yeah, we
for
didn't.
Sure.
We didn't. All of us didn't graduate too long ago, so we're
Yeah.
all.
We're all still feeling those things.
Yes.
Yeah,
First
for
year, Blake, one of the acting professors, first year, is all about eviscerating you and castrating you and stuff. And so,
Right.
and
Spade and neutering, right.
so we had to get up and do these monologues and things, and and then your colleagues give you feedback, and then your professor gives you feedback, and you're supposed to be, savage and like, can you handle it, that sort of thing. And like, we all went, I got my feedback, whatever, and I was like sweating, and I was like terrified, and then Blake was like, that was really great for half an actress. And I was like, that's what I did. My jaw dropped open, and I was like, what is that supposed to mean? He was like, you were completely dead below your chest, basically. Like, I was just like stiff. And that's always been my thing, is like planting and like sort of this rigid back sort of thing, like a weird ballet mentality thing. And, it was always like, get it in your body, get it in your body, get it in your body. And then I finally got it. Like, again, going back to Anne, it's like so much of it is like in your back, and if you can like round out this part of your back and like, your breath and all that shit. And it's funny because in the booth, when I am struggling, when I cannot make it click, when I cannot get it, I stop and I ask myself, what is my back doing? And usually if it's locked like this,
as in like vertically.
Yeah, if I'm like like, I can't really show you, but like if I'm stiff, if I'm sitting upright like this and my kind of lats are tight and everything's tight, usually I'm struggling. And then if I take a second and I round out and I actually like release my lower third, release my stomach and all that kind of stuff, and release into my back and sort of just breathe and let all the tension go, then it comes, Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And voice acting is a very physical thing. And I wish that I could go back and re-record lots of things. Like, I wish I could, go back and re-record all the things that I did before I knew better, so that I could
natural.
Like do
That's
it better or whatever.
I can't think of a single person that doesn't happen to be honest.
Yeah.
But that aside, whatever sentiment you may have, still excellent job with Akame Ga Kill.
Oh, thank you.
Seriously, yeah. Mm-hmm. We both talked about it and agree that you're we never said this completely.
Well,
you are my favorite performance of the show, personally.
Oh, well.
For sure.
Yeah.
And according to what is it, like voiceactors.com?
Behind the voice actors.
BehindTheVoiceActors.com.
Yeah.
They voted you their favorite.
BTVA,
So congrats.
thank you.
Listen, the people have spoken.
Yeah. Watch out.
Thank you.
So Molly, we are going to start to let you go, but before you go, really fast, what is the one big thing, and I know that's very difficult to articulate, but what is one of the bigger things, let's say, that you would want to say maybe to your past self and maybe to other actors who are getting started, and not just actors, but other artists, particularly during this time? What is one thing that you learned that you hold deep to your heart that you would like others to take away with?
A day-to-day thing that you feel
and you resonate with.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say for everybody, because we're all learning every day, and I'm definitely learning more. What's that thing? It's like the older you get, the more you realize you don't know anything. Like you realize, you feel like you really don't know shit. I'm learning that everybody has their own journey and the thing that they're working on. What I would tell myself, and what continues to be my lesson as an actor and in life, and those two things, your work as an actor and your work as a person, are usually, there's a lot of gray, there's a lot of overlap, and usually the stuff that you're struggling with in scene work or in your professional life, there's usually a through line into your personal life. Mine is to trust myself more. I have always second guessed myself and second guessed my work and overthought my work because I've always had a sense that something was missing. And as a person and as an artist, like I was missing something. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't where I wanted it to be. And if I could go back and tell myself something, it would be to just trust myself more and to not be so hard on myself. I don't know everybody's journey, but I think a lot of people and a lot of artists are very hard on themselves. And I think that's what keeps us from starting a lot of things, is because we want it to be good. We want it to be perfect. We want it to be right. And so we look at other people who are doing it good, quote unquote, good and right and perfect. And we think we could never get there. So what's the point in trying? It's this like self-defeating perfectionist sort of syndrome. But everybody has a day one. And if you fuck up, if you know, it's all good. It's all good and worthy. And like I was saying just a minute ago, like sometimes I'm like, I wish I could go back and re-record those things. But at the same time, no, I don't, because I don't think it wouldn't be the same, you know? And I think now, especially having grace and patience for yourself and the process and the time that it takes is so important. I had someone reach out to me today and ask, he's a aspiring voice actor, and he was asking, you know, I'm trying to get auditions and I'm trying to get work, and it's so hard and I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. I'm pushing myself and sending myself out on I'm auditioning for everything. And I told him everybody is in that same boat. I mean, established voice actors are struggling a lot right now because the work has just slowed because of the pandemic. Theater work has slowed, film work has slowed, everything has slowed. And I think it's amazing that there are people like you guys that are making stuff right now. You're making this podcast and you're making shit. I mean, that is so awesome. And you're giving outlets and opportunities to other people. And for other artists, if you feel like you've got that zhuzh in a day and you can go make something, fucking do it. If you don't, it's okay too. Because we're in a marathon. We're in a marathon, and loving yourself and your support system and taking care of yourself is always going to be number one. So there's a lot that I just said. It's not really one thing, but I think more than anything, it's like self-care sort of stuff.
No. That was refreshing. That felt very, I needed that personally.
I'm about to cry in the club.
Yeah, you're tearing up, you little bitch.
A little bit. Oh, you called me a little bitch. I can't believe you.
Yeah, good for you.
But enough is enough. I think we need to ask now the final and most important question. Molly.
Yes.
Which of the Houston sports teams is going to turn it around first? Is it the Astros? Is it the Texans? Is it the Rockets? Which one is it going to be?
Who's the least embarrassing to be a fan of?
You know, I was all on board with this until that last question, Mac.
It was a good one, and then...
Listen, I am a born and bred, proud Houstonian, and I will always stand by my teams. However, you know, the Astros are the nearest and dearest to my heart. I will say this until the day I die. I mean, yes, there was cheating scandal. There was some shady shit happening, for sure. Did everyone participate? No. Were many other teams participating? Absolutely.
True.
Do most of the organizations hate Houston teams? Yes, they do. And I will go to my grave saying that. We have a target on our back, and people hate Houston. And, you know, just ask Tony. He's always hating on Houston.
He is.
And I'm like, you've never even been there. You don't know. I love Houston. I love my Astros. And I believe in them. And, you know, there are a couple of people in the organization who made some bad choices. And, you know, that's fine. But we're going to make a comeback. I believe in the Rockets as well. I mean, we've got some changes coming.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad. We love James Harden, but it's okay. It's a new era. The Texans, I'm rooting for y'all, you know. I mean, we'll see what happens. You know,
no.
I believe in them. I support them. But yeah, the Astros are definitely my team, and I love to watch them. And I don't know. I will say 2017 was a very, very hard year, and we went through Hurricane Harvey, and the championship win did so much for our city. And the people of Houston are the most resilient people I've ever met, because we've gone through many, many natural disasters. Where we are at, we get a lot of hurricanes, tornadoes, we get everything, and we just rebuild and we just keep going. And our sister city, New Orleans, we get a lot of help from them, and we've helped them too with Katrina. And, you know, it's not like an isolated thing. Everybody pitches in and helps everybody. And so I support New Orleans teams as well. You know, I hope that we can have some really good games, you know, maybe between the Texans and the Saints or something like that. That would be great. But yeah, I mean, I feel like 2021 is gonna be a good year.
Way to spin that question.
I know.
That was
how am I
masterful.
supposed to come back at Houston like that?
Yeah, you can't
That
be a
was
hater.
excellent.
She really was like, I dare you.
Yeah.
Come
Try
at me.
again.
Hurricane Harvey, I dare you to make fun of us now.
Wow, that was awesome.
You're right.
That was
Man,
awesome.
well.
That was lovely.
Listen, I will also say this. So our Houston heroes, you know, like Jose Altuve and JJ Watt and stuff, they're super involved in the community, and they're super involved
they are,
at HEB and stuff like that. Like
JJ
you could
Watt's
see,
so
you can
good.
go down to HEB and like you might see them shopping for groceries or something, and they're really good people. They help the community so much. So I mean, no matter how you feel about the organization or your loyalty or whatever, there are a lot of good people who help the community. So anybody that does that, I'm for it, you know.
Hell of a spin.
I know.
That was awesome.
That really, really was.
Once again, Molly is a new member of the acting company at Dallas Theater Center. You can stay tuned to more of their stuff on DallasTheaterCenter.org. She's going to keep working with Funimation and Sentai Filmworks, and look forward to some of that stuff. Molly, once again, thank you so much. Where can the people find you and follow your work?
Oh my. Well, thank you.
Plug those socials.
So we've got some stuff coming up with DTC, Dallas Theater Center. We've got Something Grim, which is a sort of immersive experience, and War of the Worlds, and then we're going to be doing a world premiere of a show called Cake Ladies by Jonathan Norton that I am so excited about. That's coming in the summer. We've had to push some dates and things like that because we're living in a pandemic, and you know we got to roll with it. But anyways, but all that info can be found at DallasTheaterCenter.org. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm just Molly Searcy is my handle. I'm on Instagram at Molly Searcy Official. And then
Watch out.
Got the little blue check.
no, I don't have the blue check. It's just
Oh,
it's just to keep.
okay,
Someday
no,
she
we're
will.
gonna have to work towards that.
Oh, you mean like us get it before her?
Like us? No. We're not that important. Jesus.
We'll have to send in letters on her behalf.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to
Ooh,
say.
who should we write to? Oprah? She makes
Oh,
I think
people's
that's a good
dreams
starting point.
happen.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. Oprah has some sway.
So on Twitter, on Instagram, but then also I have a website that is mollysearcyofficial.com. It's official because there is another Molly Searcy out there, y'all, and she lives in Oregon, and she's a realtor, and she breeds Bernese mountain dogs.
Wow.
And we are friends on Twitter, and we've never spoken, but she likes my stuff. And I'm like, wow, okay. But I have more of a claim to the name because it's her married name. This is my actual
Fake.
name.
This
That's
is
a
a
fake
great
Molly.
revelation.
That's
Thank you for
hilarious.
sharing.
Yeah, seriously, that's hilarious.
All right, Molly, once again, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And by the
Oh.
way, thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. This was so nice. I could talk
glad.
about anime all the time.
Well, we might have you back if they tell us to watch
no.
another
They,
show of hers.
The people.
Yeah.
The people.
They're gonna be like, hey, watch another show, and we'll be like, oh, Molly's in that one too. Guess we have to have her back.
Oh, golly.
No, we'll see.
Good
Yeah,
golly.
we'll let you know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you so much, Molly.